Okay, it's pretty warm today. My truck says 80 right now, but I just turned it on, so it takes a little while to calibrate. But with the windows down, it feels like it's a lot warmer than 80. And yeah, this week we've had some really crazy weather. Let's see, Tuesday it was warmer than it is right now. We were sweating. Me and Ethan went out and he was wearing shorts because it was so hot. I was sweating all over the place. The next day it snowed. Like, a lot of people were saying it wasn't snow because there wasn't any on the ground, but it was melting as soon as it hit the ground. It was fall. It was actually snow. People don't want to believe that because we're in Texas, but it was snow. What I saw was snow. Maybe it wasn't snowing everywhere, but it snowed the next day. It went from 80 to cold enough to snow. And then the next day after that, it was up in the 50s, 60s. The day after that, it's 80s again. Today, it's 80s again. So yeah, it's been warming up the last couple of days. So I'm hoping today the bite's on. So I've got a little bit of time here before it gets dark. So what I'm hoping to do is I'm going to this very high pressured park that everybody knows about. It's one of the most pressured places in the city. And I'm going to try to fish the whole park. And yeah, well, you'll see when I get there how the layout of it is. And it's Brackenridge Park. I haven't really been there in a while. I was actually there the other day trying to do this video, but I didn't have enough time to catch anything. So today, with the way it's been warming up, I'm not expecting to catch a whole bunch of fish. I'm expecting maybe a couple of dink bass and some sunfish. So let's see if I can beat my expectations. I am on the most northern end of Brackenridge Park, and this little stretch right here is actually isolated from the rest of the river. The river itself, I think, is flowing over that way. I'm just seeing if there's any fish in here. Across the road there, that's Hildebrand. On the other side of that is the Headwater Sanctuaries, where I don't think you're allowed to fish. It goes into Incarnate Word. I'm not sure. I've never really looked into it. I've just always assumed you can't fish in there because it's called a sanctuary. There's some bait fish in there, but I'm not getting any nibbles or anything. Doesn't look like it's deep enough to really hold anything, and I'm stuck in the tree. I can see some floats and bobbers hanging from the other tree over there, so people do fish in this section, but I don't know if anybody actually catches anything. I'm not seeing any fish, but it's crystal clear, and I can actually see where people have been throwing jigs. Like, you can see lines across the bottom where they throw out and then they drag it back across the bottom. It looks like it's asphalt or something on the bottom, and yeah. So you can see lines in the dirt where their jigs were. There is a fish that's smaller than my swim bait chasing it and biting it. Like, seriously, look how big my swim bait is. You can see how big my bait is, and there's something chasing it that's about half that size, chasing and biting. I always thought it would be cool, it would make a cool video to come drop kayaks in over here and then kayak all of Brackenridge Park, but not allowed to do that. I've looked it up a couple of times. You just can't do it. Still not seeing any fish other than the couple minnows and stuff I've seen so far. Oh, there's a whole school of them chasing me now. Nothing bigger than this. Over this way, I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but you've got the main, like the bathrooms and the playground, and then that old bridge there, softball fields over there. This is the north end of the park. And right in the middle of the park, there's a low water crossing. It's about halfway through the park. And I have never actually caught a fish north of that low water crossing. Most of that stretch there, from that up this way, is all man-made walls like this and man-made bottoms. There's not a lot of structure and stuff. And I've never seen a bass on that side. I've seen tilapia and other fish like that you don't normally target. but I've never seen a bass or never caught anything north of that low water crossing. At the low water crossing, and then further south to the end of the park, and then on the other side of Mulberry Avenue is the what I call lower Brackenridge, but it's not actually even a part of Brackenridge Park. But that's where most of the fish are, is because after the low water crossing it turns into a natural looking river, and it's not all man-made like it is throughout the rest of the park, or it doesn't look man-made like the rest of the park. So that's where the fish are. That's what I was expecting up here, because this looks more natural up here. And yeah, it's crystal clear water. I'm not seeing any kind of movement or anything out there, nothing hiding. I'm gonna jump back in my truck and move down to another stretch maybe on the other side of that bridge over there. Yeah. Well, fortunately there's nothing to see on this side, so I'm gonna have to deal with my door frame there. But there is so many people here today. I forgot it is a Sunday afternoon. So there's hundreds and hundreds of people. That pavilion is full of people. Here's the low water crossing over here. Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of people here, and not really anywhere for me to park. I mean, handicap spots, and I do have a handicap plate, but I'm not actually handicapped, so I don't like parking in handicap spots. So I don't. So what I'm gonna do is drive down to the end where I'm gonna end up anyway, and then walk back over here. As you can see, there's nobody at any of these picnic tables, but almost every parking spot's been full except for over here. So I'm gonna park here at this end, which isn't terribly far from where I wanted to be. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna walk back up to that low water crossing and fish a little bit on the other side and talk about it some, and then come back over here. Some decent depth over here, but like I've said before, I've never actually seen a bass or anything on this side. I am seeing what looks like some beds down there, probably from tilapia or sunfish though. Sunday afternoon in Brackenridge Park. This is why I don't actually like fishing on Sundays, because there's so many people here. No, not on this side. There's a reel on the ground there. I can reach it. South Bend. The anti-reverse is a little bit messed up on it, but other than that, it works. It looks like it's pretty new. It's just a little broken, like maybe they dropped it or something and threw it away. I don't see anything really wrong with it. Just the bail's a little bit loose. Ready to fish. This is one of those ready to fish combos that you can find with the rod and the tackle box. I didn't realize they were made by South Bend. I've walked down to this side of the water crossing, and just like I was saying, I've never caught anything north of it. Right here south of it, these fish are already pairing up and they're starting to bed down. Oh, there's one right on top. Go ahead and take it. Look, they're coming right up on top of it and looking at it, but they're not taking it. There's at least 6 bass hanging out right there. I mean, nothing big, but there's some numbers there. I've decided to upsize. I put a heavier jig head and a 3-inch swim bait instead of the 2-inch swim bait. This should get their attention a little bit better. There we go. Oh, yeah, they're definitely going after it. They're definitely more interested in it. He's on. He went after it right away. Oh, and now he's tangled up in the vegetation down here. Okay, I got him out. Ugh. There we go. As you see, he did, well, there we go. Nice, healthy looking bass right here in the heart of Brackenridge Park. He wasn't coming off either. Glad I didn't snap off there in the vegetation. Okay, it's a little bit deeper out there towards the vegetation, so I'm going to throw him that way instead of dropping him in the shallow part right here. But there we go, on the 3-inch Runcl swim bait. There we go. That was good. And he darted back over there where he was. This is another spot where I've caught a ton of fish, but don't see any hanging out here today. I'm further downstream now because there's a big wooded area between here and where I just was. Now I'm on the other side of the wooded area, and this right here, there's a down tree over there. The water around it used to be a lot deeper, and you cast up under the live tree next to that down tree, and back then I would pull a bass out on every cast. It was crazy how many bass were stacked up right there. Right now it looks shallower, and I'm not actually seeing any, so I'm not sure, but let's give it a try. Close to it, not quite far enough. Really shallow over here, but over there in all that concrete, it used to get fairly deep, like a foot or so deep, and there would be fish stacked up in it, and there would also be smaller bass hanging out in the shallower water, blitzing anything that's flowing by, because there's a stronger current here through this stretch of the park than there is in most other areas of the city in this river. So, oh, he's got it. I got him. He came up and blitzed it and just took the whole thing in. So I let him have it for a second and then set the hook. This is a nice little spotted bass. It looks like, yeah, it's not a largemouth. Oh, and he's hooked good. That doesn't want to come out. Now I should be able to, there we go. After I got the tough part out, I got it out pretty easily. So, yeah, another good looking little bass. He's swimming back up where he was. It was interesting. I don't know where he came from. I was swimming it across right here, but I threw out towards that tree and was swimming it across, and he came from the middle over here. So, not entirely sure where he came from, but he came at it pretty quick. Actually, what he reminded me of is, if anybody out there has ever played the old Windows 98 or 95 game called Ski Free, where you're the little guy skiing around, and then when you get towards the end of the level, the snowman comes out and eats you, and the way that snowman chases you and there's no way you can get away from him, that's the way the bass is chasing this lure. Alright, so that's 2 fish already. Both bass, nothing big about what I predicted I would be catching. So, but also like I predicted, they're both south of the low water crossing. So, oh, I landed right on top of bass. I didn't even see him there until I hit the water. Oh, something tapped it. Oh man, I'm gonna snag a freaking turtle because there's a turtle right on my line, but he's not moving. He's not getting out of the way. I knew it. I knew I was gonna snag the damn turtle. It's his own damn fault. He swam into my line and then wouldn't move. Okay, he's hooked in the foot. He wrapped his foot around into my line. And it's his front foot too. If it was his back foot, it'd be a little easier to get out. I don't want to snap off, but I can't get down any farther. And I'm gonna fall. I am about to fall. Okay. I knew that was gonna happen too, and I couldn't avoid it. He swam into my line and then wouldn't move out of the way. So I've got to get him back onto his stomach here. Well, I'm going to get the hook out first and then get him flipped back over. As soon as I can find my pliers. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but I'm not worried about the camera angle just now. Man, he's hooked. Okay, hissing at me is not going to do you any good, buddy. There we go. Got the hook out of him. Now I'm going to get him flipped over. Well, there he goes. He's flipped himself over. He's good to go. Just going to be a little bit sore. Just way too many turtles in this city. Like, you can't see them all now. I spooked them all away, but there was probably 10, 15 turtles right in this little area. And that one had to swim into my line. Okay, there's actually a bass right there. Just hanging out in the pads. He's not moving, so he's trying to avoid being seen by me. Because I know he sees me. Oh, he sees it. He went after it, but hit the snags before he could get to it. Alright, so before I run out of too much daylight, there's maybe 2 more spots inside the park here, and then I've got the whole stretch on the other side of the street. There used to be a big tree right here that's gone now. It must have fallen in one of the floods, but it grew out and then up, so you could actually walk out on it at one point. Kind of the way that tree is growing straight out and then up, that's what this one was doing. And you could walk out on it and fish, drop your line straight down or cast out, instead of standing on the bank here where you're going to snag all these roots. Had a lot of names and stuff carved into it, and dates and years. So it's kind of sad to see that tree go. Been there for a long time. This spot here is usually good for at least a fish. Got pads over there. A lot of lay down and shelter and structure over that way. So, problem is casting out and not hitting the tree that's growing across the river here. I snapped off. Let's just say I found where that missing tree went. This is the last fishable spot inside the park. And for a long time my PB had come out of this spot until I broke it. But I've broken it several times since then. It really wasn't that big of a fish, but I used to fish here all the time and didn't really go too many other places. So my PB came out of this spot. This spot also, if it's a little moist or wet or rainy or anything, I would not recommend coming into this spot because you'll slip down the trail in the mud, and it's almost impossible to get back up. And I'm speaking from experience. Yeah, if it's wet, don't come to this spot. There we go. Oh, he came off on the hook set. He came flying out of the water. I don't know if I got that on camera or not, but it's a little bass. Just gonna cross the street here. So they've changed the rules here. They lock this gate now at sunset, and it's a manual lock. It's not an automatic one, so if you're in there, you're locked in there. So it used to be open all night. You could be out here till 11 o'clock or whatever if you wanted, but now it closes at sunset. So I'm not even going to bother moving my truck over here. I'm just going to leave it where it was and walk this thing. So now this is technically outside of Brackenridge Park. This is a separate park itself, but everybody considers it a part of Brackenridge because it's like literally right there across the street. So this part here, sometimes if it's wet, I wouldn't come down here either. This spot here gets pretty steep and it's pretty tricky even when it's dry. So that's a fish. What? I was not expecting that. It's a nice sunfish. It's a red ear. It's pretty cool, I guess. I thought I got snagged on the vegetation over there, but he came out and grabbed it and decided to pee on me. I threw it out and then turned my camera on, and before my camera even kicked on, there was a fish that ran up and grabbed him. Oh, I got him. I got one. Got something. Doesn't feel like it's very big, but I got one. He's darting around crazy. It's a sunfish. That is a huge sunfish. Wow. Look at the size of this thing. Not quite the 10 inches I don't think that a record would be, but let me see here. 9 1/4, 9 1/2. Definitely not 10. Big Fish Award on these would have to be 10. Alright, get this guy back out there. Alright, so I am running out of daylight. I still could be fishing for a little while, but I snapped off, and it was such an ugly way. I lost a lot of line, so I don't feel like tying back on right now. But I fished almost the entire stretch of all of Brackenridge Park, from Hildebrand to Mulberry, and there was a good chunk of the river in the middle of the park that was actually fenced off for some reason. I don't know why, but that's all right. Then I came over to this side of Mulberry on this road here. The dead ends down at the end at the golf course. But I really only got about a quarter, maybe a third of the distance I wanted to get in this stretch. But yeah, I don't think I actually caught any bass out of here. I probably could have if I hadn't snapped off and I was still fishing, but I did get a really nice sunfish here at the end. And all the baits I was using were Runcl swim baits. One of them, the first one I was throwing, the chartreuse sting, was a anchor box swim bait. Everything I caught was actually on the 3-inch Pro Bite swim bait from Runcl. In the I forget what the color is called, but I'll link it down below. It's green across the top and kind of a cream on the bottom, whitish cream color. So there you go. That was Brackenridge Park. It's pretty high pressured, but there are some decent fish in here. Sometimes you can have a pretty good day out here, especially on the southern end of the park. The northern end of the park, I still have yet to catch something above the low water crossing. On the southern end, starting at the low water crossing all the way to the golf course, there's fish everywhere. So, yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.